What's a trap in life that no one warns young people about, but absolutely should? Your first job out of college can really pigeonhole you for the rest of your career. Like, if you do a biology degree and you get a job handling supply chain stuff for a bio company, then it's going to be hard for you to find a lab based job after a while. All of a sudden, all your experience will be handling supply chain stuff and your other technical skills atrophy. Well, on the flip side, I guess that can also be a good thing, though. Like, I've seen a lot of people find unexpected success this way. Story 2. An ounce of prevention really is worth a pound of cure. Use sunscreen, keep your indulgences moderate, stretch regularly, eat fiber, hydrate, and take care of your teeth. Your bed should be one of your investments, not necessarily more expensive, but it should be the best quality for your personal body that you can get. Always remember to moderate hedonism. Having too much is almost as bad as having too little. Pleasure is an intrinsic part of a healthy psyche, and it is good to do things for no purpose but your sensual, as in sense-related, not necessarily pleasure. If you are regular and thoughtful about it, you'll be less likely to overindulge just because you have an opportunity. Story 3. I get that there's good and bad in everything and that moderation matters. Some people thrive having kids, and even things like credit cards can be useful if you're smart about them. But they can also easily become traps. For me, one of the biggest traps no one really warns you about is social media, especially apps like TikTok or Instagram. They mess with your dopamine, your attention span, your self-esteem, and even your relationships. It's so easy to block, unfollow, or replace people the moment there's conflict or disagreement instead of learning to communicate, commit, and work through things. There's also an overload of opinions and advice out there that can leave you confused or disconnected from your own judgment. I'm still hooked on it myself, and I can see both the good and the bad sides, but it's such a massive influence on young people's lives now, and not always in a healthy way. Story 4. There's a lot of people around me who just never travel and work themselves to death. It's pretty sad, not even like a weekend getaway to a state park or something that does wonders for resetting how you feel mentally. Sometimes they say things like they will travel when they are retired, but like, you don't know if you'll be here, and your health will certainly be worse than now. Story 5. One of the worst decisions you can make in life is marrying and or having kids with a bad or very irresponsible person. Most people don't know how to manage debt and should avoid it altogether, excluding maybe a house and car. When it comes to investing in retirement, time can either be your best friend or your biggest concern. Generally, the earlier you start, the better. Story 6. Working too many hours can disable or end you. At 43, after over a decade of working 70 to 90 hours per week, I had a massive stroke that left me half paralyzed, part blind, and incontinent. It's known now that long working hours contribute to stroke. Be careful when your employer asks you to sign a long working hours waiver or insists it's a requirement for the job. I was able to put my work ethic into my recovery, and 9 years after the stroke, I completed my first half marathon on foot. Story 7. Don't stick to hanging out with a group that you constantly feel like you have to prove your worth to. Everyone on Reddit will tell you to self-reflect and blame yourself for whatever, but sometimes a person can just be surrounded by schmucks. Only dumb schmucks think the majority is always right by default. If the people around you treat you like crap, just get away from them. It won't be like they never existed. Just start over, even if it's slow. Start from a foundation where people don't thrust this identity of weak, unwanted loser onto you. It's better to be alone than around people who make you feel alone. Story 8. Materialism and lifestyle creep will destroy you. Live within your means. Children are expensive. Look up how much it costs to raise a child and give it an adequate living. If your partner still wants to have one and you don't have the means to afford it, recognize you're going to be working a lot harder for the rest of your life, with likely no reward outside of hopefully giving a child a decent standard of living. You might also get a divorce or break up due to money issues. Also, no matter how good a parent you are, your child may distance themselves from you and might not help you in old age. Working towards a better future does not equal having more money. See above for lifestyle creep. Finding peace with your life now is better than grinding for a better day tomorrow. I guess all three of these are more or less saying the same thing, LMAO. Story 9. Student loans. You're encouraged to not have credit card debt. You're encouraged to get a degree. But now the cost of some degrees can compel you to a life of indentured servitude, so really look into how much you'll make and compare that to what you expect your monthly payments to be. When I was applying for student loans, I asked my mom how much my monthly payments would be. She told me about $400. They ended up being $1,000 a month, and that was the difference between affording my own place and having to live at home. Story 10. For those routed towards college, it is much cheaper to get your prerequisite general education credits from a community college. Check which credits you can transfer and take as many classes as you can over the summer, and then save yourself thousands of dollars. The outrageous prices at universities are barely reasonable even when the American education experience is about networking with others as you teach yourself the material needed. You aren't networking with anyone from Math 1003, I promise you. There are groups to join outside of universities if you have a hobby. Save your money by being efficient with your studies. Story 11. College, university being an absolute in terms of getting ahead in life. You don't necessarily need to go into higher education anymore. And a lot of the time, it might actually be worth your while to learn outside of these institutions while also working to build up your work experience. Anecdotal, of course, but I've seen far more cases of post-high school success for people who went into apprenticeships and or learning a trade. Most people I know who went into higher education are either unemployed or seriously removed from what they went to college or university to do, myself included. Story 12. Don't loan people money and expect to be paid back. I used to loan people money all the time. People were usually very good about paying me back. My sister was one of those people. Pretty much every month, she'd ask for essentially what amounted to a paycheck advance because her pay schedule was weird and didn't line up with when bills were due. Then one month, she asked if I could loan her some money like before, but decided not to mention that she quit her job because of some petty nonsense. Long story short, I'm never getting my $2,000 back. 3 years later, she still asks for money, and every time she does, I want to kick her in the face for how she treated me and the rest of my family. She was the family member I was closest to, and now I can't stand her, which would not be the case if I hadn't tried to help. Also, grass played a large part in some issues on her side of things, which soured my enjoyment of it, and that also made me mad. Story 13. Freaking credit cards. I went most of my life without one. My last hubs got one and racked up $12,000 in a few months. I never touched it. He passed away a couple years ago, still owing that. No way I could pay it, and since there was never a card with my name on it and my name wasn't on any of his accounts, the bank ate it. Thank goodness. Don't start with credit cards. That $12,000 would have taken the rest of my life. I couldn't have paid more than the minimum payment. Story 14. Especially for young men right now, people are going to inflate your ego, tell you that women or whoever are keeping you down, and that you are entitled to what those groups supposedly have. Those people are more than likely trying to sell you a product or selling you down a pipeline. Either they want you to buy a product or you are the product. Go outside, meet people not from your usual groups, strike up a conversation, join an activity group, volunteer your time to make your community better, travel if you can. I swear that talking to more and different people will broaden your mind, help you develop more as a person, discover things about yourself you never knew, and ultimately make you happy. Online information pipelines want you permanently angry and scared. Touching grass occasionally is good for you. Story 15. Looking if I can afford the monthly payments when buying a car and taking out 7-year loans on a much more expensive car than you should have bought. I've seen multiple people finance cars with higher MSRP than their annual wages. One was an 18-year-old with a $66,000 truck, made it work because he lives with his parents and doesn't pay rent. Another was a mother working part-time at a McDonald's who apparently needed a nice Suburban. God forbid you get a used crossover or a minivan. Story 16. The wedding industry. Everyone in their 20s thinks they need to spend lavish amounts of money on these weddings, some outdoing others. It's really also unimportant. Worry about the marriage. Starting a marriage with money in the bank and being able to save for and afford a home is so much better than starting with $50,000 to $100,000 in debt for your day. The wedding industry has become a big, tacky, money-grubbing machine. Story 17. A lot of friendships are situational. Just because you were childhood neighbors or went drinking together in college doesn't mean they need to stay in your life forever. I'm not saying you should drop all of your friends, but if someone is negatively impacting your life, causing drama, treating you badly, or just making you dread being around them, it's totally okay to distance yourself. Don't get stuck in a bad crowd just because you feel obligated to be. Story 18. My answer for this is maybe a bad one because I probably was warned about this, but I ignored it because, youth. But the trap of thinking you have so much time to do everything you want to do. You absolutely do, at first. And then before you know it, you're 40 and wondering what the heck happened. Man, it happened so fast. You're young, a kid, and then bam, you are old and just like, I was just a kid. How did it happen so fast? Story 19. Pension. Like seriously, don't wait until later to look into your pension. Put in as much as you can spare as soon as you can. With the UK, every workplace must offer a pension plan and almost all of them will match whatever you put in up to a certain amount per month. Make sure that you're always trying to hit that limit because your job won't automatically set you at that level. Story 20. Lots of great stuff here. I'm going to focus on partying and doing substances. Obvious, right? But the fact is, it's pretty normalized and it can be a lot of fun. You're with fun, cool people, going to all the parties, you've got cool friends, and it's lame to be a normie. You're awakened, spiritual, the universe has a plan. Until you hit 40. All of a sudden, people are gone, you're old, your body can't keep up, you feel out of place, you are literally and figuratively the last person at the afters. And it's just sad. Be really careful with the party lifestyle. You blink and all of a sudden you've got a lot fewer options than you'd like in life. At least you were a legend, though. Story 21. You won't be happy all the time or even most of the time. Thinking you will or should is unrealistic and kind of dumb. You might be content, you might have a good amount of that. You are far better off finding the meaning, feeling as though the things you are doing with your life matter. That, while it might not bring happiness if the way that a lot of people think should be the goal, make your life worth living, it makes the highest and lows worth it because the highs and lows cannot be avoided and really shouldn't be. We spend far too much time, especially when we are young, pushing for this constant happiness. It causes more pain than it removes. Story 22. The one that got me was not having a credit card. My whole life I heard online in school and in the movies, TV shows about the woes of debt, and specifically credit cards. I always thought I was being financially smart by just never getting one. Even when I bought my first 2 cars, I paid in full cash, no debt, no problem. Fast forward to a few years ago, and I'm in my early 30s and getting pressured into buying a house. I have about $70,000 in my bank account, and my budget is around $250,000 maximum on what I'm looking to spend. I eventually land on a place that works perfectly for what I need, and now it's time to get a loan. Turns out, having no history of credit makes that quite difficult. It didn't matter that I was able to make a 40% down payment. It didn't matter that I had a stable career that paid well. I ended up having to take a loan out that was nearly 2% higher on interest than if I had a perfect credit score, though I was able to spend $5,000 to knock the percentage down a little bit. 2% might not sound like much, but over the course of 30 years, that will cost me tens of thousands extra. So get a credit card, turn on auto pay, and don't spend money you don't have. My card gives me 3% cash back across the board. I've literally been losing money my whole life by not using a credit card. Story 23. You aren't free. The illusion of freedom within the current system is a lie. We're free to do whatever we want, but we can't live a life worth living without selling our labor to the lowest bidder and contributing to a system that couldn't give less of a crap about us. Work hard in the system for the shortest amount of time it takes to make enough money to escape the system. That's the only way you'll be free. Story 24. Not dealing with personal insecurities. It's not your fault that you have them, but it is your problem, and really it's everyone around you that also suffers, even if it is not obvious. You get insecure and jealous towards a sibling and waste time angry at them instead of the happy times you should be sharing. You are insecure towards a friend and make passive-aggressive comments and fracture your friend group. You don't even try to put an effort towards getting a promotion because you feel you don't deserve it or are too scared of rejection or failure. So you stay in an unfulfilling job and build up resentment that leaks out on everyone around you. It all adds up, and it's so easy to avoid just confronting it because it hurts to do so. It's easy to see it in others, but just as easy for us to not even notice our own. Story 25. I worked my way through college, so I didn't get a chance to do internships in my sophomore, junior, or senior years. Thus, I had 2 choices after college. 1, keep working at the job that I now had 4 years of experience in that wasn't in my major. 2, start over at a career in my major without having any experience understanding the day-to-day, all while applying for the job cold. Internships are valuable, and unless you have the time and money to go for them, you are probably not getting into that industry later. I don't think enough people warn young people about buying a house or property when not having enough money to cover everything else. Home ownership has a lot of hidden costs of money and time. Putting money into a regular 401k versus a Roth 401k or IRA, it seems like a great idea. Lower your taxable income and invest in the future. Wonderful. But then you hit 55 and realize you need to start pulling money out to do Roth conversions, and it's just annoying as heck. Story 26. To the girls and young women, marriage, more often than not, is an almost inescapable trap. Marriage and children aren't the only path to true happiness. In fact, those 2 things fall to last, if not fall off the list completely, when you truly see all of the opportunities you actually have, which is literally the sky's the limit, especially now. Know that if you do choose to get married and have children, the odds that your husband will revert to being childlike and you basically become a replacement mother to him is really high. Yes, it has gotten a lot better with equality happening more and more in marriage, but the appeal to just be taken care of while he gets to fool around doing whatever is really hard to just not give into. And many men don't even fight at all. Married women who have children are still the most miserable demographic, with single child-free women being the happiest and longest living. Married men are the happiest and longest lived in their demographic because their wives take care of them like they are oblivious children who don't know left from right. So, before you jump into whatever deep end lies before you, know fully what all that deep end really entails. Story 27. Microloans, Klarna, Affirm, Afterpay, all of them. If you can't afford to buy it outright, you simply can't afford it right now, and that is okay. All those $13 payments add up, and soon you won't have money for groceries because you had to pay your shopping bill. Credit companies are predators and we are their prey. They can't survive without wringing every dollar they can out of us. Microloans are bear traps. Watch out. Story 28. The trap is to pick your vocation at a very young age and then settling for the basic lifestyle of the masses with a typical consumer mindset, all without learning any critical analysis in school itself and instead taught to be obedient workers and taxpayers, specializing in a single discipline and closing their minds upon graduation. The trick is to eschew it all, ask a lot of the questions, and delay every major decision for as long as possible, considering the circumstances. Story 29. Listening to peers who tell you to reject hustle culture and work to live, not the other way around, and then interpreting that as do the minimum required to get by. Soon you find yourself in midlife with no savings, no meaningful assets to lean on in a pinch, and a career spent doing nothing but a series of stagnant jobs that you regret wasting time on. Finding work that satisfies you is important because 40 hours a week is not something you should throw away on something you dislike. Finding work you can do well is important because you should be paid what you're worth, and that your worth economically is usually based on what you're good at, not your willingness to endure something you hate. It's like eating vegetables. Don't eat vegetables you hate and eat just enough to avoid scurvy. Find vegetables you love and pile them onto a plate of other stuff you love. Story 30. People do warn young folk about credit cards and other forms of debt, loans, etc., but no one warns them that it's not about paying back what you borrowed that's hard, it's also paying back the interest, and that interest accumulates eye-wateringly fast. And it's the interest that makes it hard to actually pay back what you borrowed. All of a sudden, you have $7,000 in credit card debt, the minimum payment is $350, but a good chunk of that is interest and all the money that you borrowed. And before you know it, you're paying off $50 of your principal. I wish that there was more education around how all of that works rather than don't use credit cards, don't get into debt. Story 31. The reciprocity paradox. You meet a cool person, you like them, they ask you for a favor, maybe borrow money or your car or something, so you do the favor. You think that what follows would be that they desire to now do you a favor. But studies have shown that what actually happens is you're most likely to do them another favor and another, eventually creating a one-sided relationship. They get used to your help and grow to expect it. But why do you keep doing the favors? Because you want to protect their image of you. They see you as a helper. And you like that. If you suddenly turn off the favors, you're being incongruous with who you were presenting yourself to be, so you keep doing favor after favor. Establish boundaries early and be willing to walk away from one-sided friendships and relationships. If they're not reaching out to be in your life, participate in your life, help with your life, then they aren't worth your time, and being as nice to them as possible won't change anything. And if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 32. Start saving immediately, a 401k at least. Do a budget and save anything you can. If it's $5, it's $5. Don't get too much debt. Be mindful of that and what you need to finance something. A car because your old one broke down can't be fixed. Look for a newer used car. Finance that for as short a time as you can. If you're paying interest, if it's 0% interest, finance for as long as possible. Don't finance TVs and stereos and other stuff. Buy something you can afford or save for it. Story 33. If the cops tell you to confess or anything similar, do not. Cops can't just let you go because you were nice. Request for a lawyer and do not say anything. Even if you said something that sounds good, it could be used against you. Always double check their questions. They may try to trap you, for example. Do you mind if I check your trunk? If you say yes, they can search you and argue that you agreed. And if you say no, they can search you and argue that you didn't mind to be searched. Word everything carefully. Always record everything. Story 34. Following your dream, not giving up on your dream. You change so much in your 20s. It's okay if your priorities change. It's okay if you discover that what you thought was your dream isn't really a good fit for you. Moving on to something else is allowed and it doesn't make you a failure. Save and invest as early as possible. There's absolutely no replacement for time in the markets. We didn't do much travel or too many indulgences in our 20s, and those continuous investments produce as much as our employment income in our 40s. It's way more fun to spend it now that we have a family. Checking off boxes, college, job, marriage, and kids, all with some timeline in mind, is a great breeding ground for not only making time pass too quickly, but also for not taking the time to decide what you really want. It's easy to get locked into a life with the wrong person and wrong career, etc. Figure out what you want and ask a ton of questions along the way. Keep an ear out for opportunities you may not expect. Story 35. Lifestyle creep. This is especially dangerous for younger people moving up in a career. You start getting more money from work, so you treat yourself a little, maybe a subscription you couldn't afford before, or just not having to be as careful with money as you were before. Your whole cost of living shoots up, but that's not as noticeable as it was before because all the bills get paid. Normalizing and suppressing cruelty from family or friends, keeping cruel people in your life because you have been around the cruelty so long that you don't register it as cruelty on a conscious level. You have to break free from that illusion. You may consciously think the cruelty is okay or normal, but deep down in your unconscious mind, it is slowly eating at you. It will cause you immense pain that won't go away until you admit the true source of that pain and are brave enough to face it. Don't try too hard. You won't get rewarded for putting in 120% of your coworkers' efforts and outperforming them 50%. You will just get sick and depressed, and they will leave you in that position because they think it is hilarious that someone would work so hard for so little money. So don't be a chump. Do what you're told to do well in the amount you were told to do it, and no more, my opinion. Story 36. I've been working call center jobs since I was a teenager. That's just for the jobs, and the opportunities are not great jobs, but you can make a lower middle class income with it. And there's opportunities there, so they are full-time with benefits. But I feel like AI and outsourcing just crushed this industry. It's also a little status, lower spec job, but at least I'm your air conditioning and working from home most of the time. Story 37. Staying up past midnight and getting several nights a week feels costless in your 20s, but it's not. You're quietly running your future self's health into the ground. Those hedonistic chickens come home to roost in your 30s and 40s as slower metabolism, constant fatigue, and creeping anxiety or depression. None of it's unfixable, but it's a lot harder to reverse than to prevent. It's way easier to hit the gym at 25 than to rebuild your energy at 35. Your body keeps the receipts. Story 38. Having kids and picking the wrong college major or career. Also, getting pets of any kind. They look so cute and fun at first, but they all require a daily commitment to feed and water, take a dog for multiple walks every day, or change the cat litter every day. It can also be very expensive if they have any kind of health problem or injury. And if you ever want to go on a trip away, even for a long weekend, you have to board them or find a trusted pet sitter, which can also be very expensive. Many dogs and cats live for 15 years or longer. It's a real serious time and money commitment that I don't think many people take seriously. Story 39. I'd say regretting something is really one of the worst experiences, especially the youth can go through. Imagine regretting that 6-year relationship you've just ended, feeling regret because you chose that major. Or worst of all, feeling regret because you didn't spend enough time with the ones you love. Do something you love and you will never regret doing it. Story 40. Company loyalty. Your employer doesn't care about you. You're expected to give 110%, but that expectation is strictly one way. If you were to pass away, they might send flowers or a card, but you'd be replaced a couple of weeks later and life would go on. Don't get trapped into thinking that you owe anything to your company other than the business arrangement that you both agreed to when you were hired. Story 41. Not having a basic understanding of how the legal system works. Criminal law. So many people incriminate themselves, and if they just shut up, it's likely a case can't be made. Civil law. People think you can sue for the dumbest crap and win tons of money. Family law. People think they can divorce, make a will, determine custody, etc., all without a lawyer, or they take legal advice from their adversary. They end up screwed up in the end. Learn the basics. Story 42. Complacency might be a good word for it. There is a whole list of things that a young person is expected to do. The problem is, if you only follow the list, you are kind of just dumped into adulthood looking forward to a path of mediocrity at best. Your youth is the best chance you have to discover something you want to be exceptional at and the best time to explore opportunities. The idea that school prepares you for work life is incorrect. It has never been the objective. School prepares you to be a thinking being. It's about the act of learning, not just what you learn. But everyone is too focused on crying about grades and homework that it just becomes a race for numbers, or they overcompensate with new school systems that treat having a business as if it were the actual goal of life. Story 43. One day, if you work hard enough, you will find yourself making just enough money to stop you from pursuing your dreams. These are golden handcuffs. It is a very nice prison. You will have found that the American dream is a nightmare. You will have a house, kids, spouse, cars, streaming services, gaming consoles, debt, degrees, and still not be happy. You look to the community, church, clubs, and gyms to fill the void, but it will just make the cage nicer. Story 44. Being aware of hyper-consumerism as a concept from an early age can really do a lot of good and can help in recognizing and avoiding a lot of traps. Consuming goods for the sake of consuming goods and attaching one's identity and emotions to the goods they consume, that helps to cross a lot of wires, turning an actual need into a mere want, while simple wants are transformed into dire needs. Example, I should probably get this tooth looked at, but pop star princess announced her latest tour and tickets are limited. Oh well, I absolutely have to go, I am a fan after all, and while tickets are $300 a piece, I don't mind getting them now and let the next round of saving be for the dentist. This train of thought is absolute poison, and large parts of the internet serve to reinforce this mindset, typically in the form of fan clubs, or at least some large abstract social body of sorts that makes participants feel like they're in a community. None of it is really healthy. Most of it is a pale imitation of the thing they replace, good old fashioned socializing in this case. And at some point, it will get needlessly expensive, as the end goal is to get people to impulsively buy crap for the sake of buying crap. Story 45. Student debt to not being ready for a full 4-year degree right out of high school. Your late teens and early 20s can be a rough time psychologically, and if you don't think you're ready, you shouldn't let anyone push you into thousands and thousands of dollars worth of debt. Take a year or two to go to community college. I should have, but I let my mother convince me I could do it, and then I flunked out because it turns out I have depression and ADHD, and my entire support system got yanked out from under me, and now I owe $40,000 to the student loan company. Story 46. Never buy what you cannot afford. Having a credit card doesn't mean you can waste $5K. You'll have to pay that back and much more due to interest if you make minimum payments. Also, invest in your 401k, 403b if you can. It's a huge plus if the company matches a certain percentage of your investment. If you want more advice, you can learn to get a Roth IRA. Read the books The Compound Effect and I Will Teach You to Be Rich, Edition 1. They are very easy to read and you'll learn the basics fast. Story 47. The education you receive today in high school is at least decades out of date, and even at university or college, most of what you learn is either obsolete, redundant, or will soon be discredited. What you do learn, you'll almost immediately forget after graduating. School is for forming a social network and learning discipline and responsibility, but exists almost entirely as a justification for credentialism. The degree or certificate itself will open doors, not the actual knowledge you gained. I've seen students literally end themselves over anxiety and stress related to their academic performance, but the truth is that virtually none of those grades matter unless it's associated with a practical goal like qualifying for a specific scholarship or competing for placement. Story 48. Living in late-stage capitalism, especially in the USA, honestly, it's just one trap after another. Get loans to go to college, student debt trap. Get proper medical care, medical debt trap. Get credit cards to pay that off, credit card debt trap. Work 3 jobs to pay that all off, now you're trapping yourself in depression and anxiety. Wind up homeless, get cited for sleeping in public, now you're in prison doing technically not slave labor. Manage to avoid all that? Congrats, you still get to live with the fear of it all hanging over you. Story 49. For people in America, if you have the privilege to contemplate going to school in a different country, do it. You can go to elite, prestigious private schools in Europe for 25% the cost of an American university. Be in the spaces where many academic ideas and traditions originated. Be at a school where 12 languages are spoken. Health insurance is better quality for a fraction of the price. Food is better, cleaner, and often cheaper. You can walk everywhere. You can fly or drive to Paris, Madrid, Berlin, London, Lisbon, Amsterdam, Egypt, Morocco in 2 to 4 hours, and sometimes flights as cheap as €15. And in some places, a long-term student visa is a pathway to more permanent residency or dual citizenship. Plus, you don't have to experience the American decline. It is a privilege to have the ability to leave and forge a new life. It is a luxury experience, but once you get through the bureaucracy, it is an infinitely better and more affordable life, and it will unlock access to the full, vibrant tapestry of Europe, North Africa, and the UK, and the wider world and the bounty of amazing, diverse people here. Story 50. Debt. What people don't realize is that debt is actually reducing your future spending. If you have to pay that off $20 per month for the next year, you're reducing your future spending power or savings by that same amount. I'd also go a step further and look at what you need, not what's available. Spending will destroy you financially. You probably don't need a fully kitted out Toyota Grand Highlander Platinum package. You don't need a new phone every year, maybe once a generation. You don't need to eat fancy meals every meal or drink canned water, soda, or alcohol. Beans and rice and a glass of tap water, you'll survive. Story 51. Looking up to the wrong people because you see them as the persona they presented to you and not the person they truly are. I learned the hard way that a lot of men in my life are actually spineless little boys who I feel disgusted for looking up to as a child. If someone talks a lot about something but you never see them doing it, it's probably because they don't do it at all and they aren't as cool as they want you to think. Be your own person. Don't stand in the shadow of a loser. Story 52. You are not supposed to do or feel anything you've seen. They teach how to do things a specific way, and actually that is the reason why there is a big gap between you and your childhood. There's always a reason for doing something as a child. It is your instinct. Because of all the things we suppress and how we behave, we forgot what we were. As a young adult, the most important thing in life that you need to do is to see how you do and feel things. Story 53. They do warn you about this, but not in the right way, I think. As an overweight man in his 40s, it's definitely harder to lose weight now than it would be to have never gained it at all. Not talking dad bod, but like very overweight. And I don't just mean metabolism, but finding the time with family, work, and friends to eat right, and also psychotically being in the right headspace to moderate your intake. Also, some exercise is awesome. I love running, but didn't start till the start of COVID. Wish I'd started earlier. Story 54. Older people befriending you because people their own age are tired of their nonsense, but you lack the experience to realize how toxic they are, and you haven't figured out how and when to set boundaries and confidently say no. Since the internet is where nuance goes to end, I want to clarify that age gap friendships are not inherently toxic. They can be healthy and good, but people do take advantage of younger folks, and I want people to be aware of that. Story 55. I'm going to get a lot of blowback on this, but I gotta say it. Having babies, if you're not financially able to, especially in this crappy economy, it's hard enough to survive and strive for home ownership being child-free. Add a kid or two or more and your chances go way down. Of course, the rich and or well-connected will always be fine, especially the young adult kids of rich parents who buy their kids their first home. They're lucky and blessed, but dang, it sure hurts not being in that type of lucky situation. Story 56. Wasting time on comfort-oriented people. Sure, some comfort is nice. I talk about when it becomes the main focus to do the absolute least you have to just to stay sitting on your butt wherever you are. I have wasted a lot of things on several people over the years who always only did the absolute bare minimum, and only when life forced them to do it. It took years to resolve the trauma and losses these freeloading schmucks caused me in every sense of the word. Story 57. Credit cards and then avoiding making payments. When I was young, I grew up on the poverty line and was surrounded by family who were irresponsible with money. I yearned for the option of being able to get credit when I turned 18. I promptly turned 18 and got my first credit card and then another for another purchase, credit through a financier at a furniture store. About 6 months later, I moved cities and got a job which basically paid nothing, therefore missed payments on my credit cards. I had debt collectors calling me every day, and then they started calling my family. It took until my sister threatened to kick me out of her house to do something about it. I got a new, much better paying job and started making payments towards my debts and paid them off slowly after a couple of years. Almost 20 years later now, and I'm definitely a lot more financially literate and responsible. Haven't had any credit cards since then. I guess I'm not necessarily saying don't get a credit card. I'm just saying that if you get one and you miss your payments, be honest with your financier and make payment plans to pay off your debt. Story 58. Don't blindly follow any belief system or ideology, as even the most positive ones can have dark sides and flaws when taken too far or improperly implemented. Heck, some people will use ideologies that sound good to fool you into doing what they want. Also, sometimes it helps to let go, question and deconstruct our beliefs and not stubbornly cling on to them. Story 59. Sunk cost fallacy. Sometimes things aren't going to pan out the way you're hoping for no matter how much time, work, or money you put into them, and there's no shame in jumping ship. This can be a tangible investment or even just realizing you were wrong in an argument. You're going to end up resenting it if you know full well you're just making things hard for yourself, but just keep digging yourself deeper because, well, I already put so much into this, I might as well see it through. Story 60. The comfort trap. You get a job that pays okay, not great, but decent. The work is fine, not your passion, but not horrible either. So you stay. 1 year becomes 5, 5 becomes 10. Then you're 35, realizing you spent a decade getting good at something you don't care about. Now you've got a mortgage, higher expenses, responsibilities. Starting over feels impossible. The trap isn't that it's bad, it's just that it's just comfortable enough that leaving feels scarier than staying. My dad did this for 30 years, came home complaining every day, saying, someday I'll do what I really want. Someday never came. Don't let fine become your forever. If you're young with few obligations, that's your window to take risks. Story 61. Lack of a morning routine or the wrong one. I can't tell you how different life feels when my morning works for me and how long-lasting the benefits are. Getting a quick workout or movement in, doing a quick day plan, putting on sunscreen and not feeling rushed to brush my teeth, taking vitamins with a routine breakfast. When that's locked in before work, I'm adding to my life. When it's not, I'm 3 cups of coffee and stress jitters into being useless. Story 62. It's all about networking. You need someone who knows you. You are going to need to go to local networking events and things like BNI. You can tour them for free so you can try out different meetings. It's usually for small businesses, but it's a place to help each other in different fields of work. Attend expos and conventions in the field of study you want to be in. Go to happy hours, see if you can get a meeting with someone from the company. Go as high up as the ladder, CEO, and buy them lunch and get to know them and see what doors you can open up. Story 63. I feel like a lot of young people don't know what they're getting into before they have kids, and a lot of them would probably do more research before buying a computer, as sad as that is. I'm a 27-year-old male and openly child-free, and when I explained to a worker at an old job who was 2 years younger than me and would love to have kids why I didn't want them, they're stressful, time-consuming, expensive, and I just don't like them, I remember her saying, "Oh, they're not that expensive, ask Jen," another coworker with kids. This was a minimum wage call center job to boot, LOL. Also, underage drinking can be a much bigger problem than it's presented as, and I think it's baffling how many parents are apparently okay with or even encourage it. The college drinking and partying stuff when you are legally old enough isn't all it's cracked up to be either. Story 64. Avoid debt. The more you can pay cash or debit card, the better off you will be in the long run. Do you need a car for a day trip? Rent one. Find a job that you can commute to using public transportation. Try to live below your means. They used to say that you should have enough money in the bank to live for 6 months. At one point in my career, I was out of work for 14 months. Fortunately, I had saved up a year's worth of money and I was able to economize to stretch that money, and I had a stay-at-home wife and children. If your credit card gives you cash back, then feel free to take it so long as you always pay your bill before any interest is due. They are working on the assumption, usually correct, that you will miss a payment and then all of that cash back will be chump change compared to the interest rate they are going to charge you. Story 65. U.S. citizenship. We are the only population base in human history, as far as I know, that is obligated to pay income tax from birth to the relinquishment of nationality, even if you never actually set foot in the USA. Likewise, you'll be treated like you have lice in dozens of countries because of how the government acts internationally, such that you will be driven to buy I Heart Canada clothing even if red is not your color. A close second is wage work. You are better off in almost every way beyond some potential peace of mind aspect to start a business doing the same thing. Coincidentally, a great opportunity exists to take the maximum federal student loans for an internationally transferable field of study, and then start a business paying yourself a minimal amount as a consultant. You'll never have to repay the loans or be liable for income tax, and dozens of countries have near zero tax on various businesses, all while offering great healthcare and a better quality of life. And if any of these stories got to you, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.